Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Christian Scott. I'm with Plurilock, and today we are going to be talking a little bit about adapting to the growing operational technology threats that are in the ecosystem in the cybersecurity landscape. We're also going to be talking a little bit about also how to defend against those threats. Today, as we go to cover that in depth, we're going to be thinking about the fact that more than ever, malicious actors are targeting and disrupting operational technology environments that underpin the critical infrastructure that we all leverage and utilize today, be it if it's utility grids and water treatment facilities, but also manufacturing supply chains, right? And that can be across the space of components like semiconductor chips, that can be across the space of important components for industrial control systems, for other manufacturing processes. And in that thought process and how malicious actors are becoming more and more sophisticated with their capabilities, how to defend against those threats through continuous security testing tools and principles as it relates to the Purdue model. That being noted, I want to start off just a little bit about myself. So I am the practice leader of offensive cybersecurity services here at Plurilock. I have 20 years background and experience as an engineer, contributing a lot in the cybersecurity community and threat landscape in regards to creating open source tools and technologies. I have over 2,500 security testing engagements under my belt, and today lead our elite ethical hacker team, in which we do all types of things like penetration testing, social engineering testing, red teaming, purple teaming, and all that in between. That being noted, as we jump in here, I want to just remind everyone also about us here at Plurilock. So we are an elite cybersecurity strike team that helps organizations across the domain of offensive cybersecurity, of course, but also defensive technologies, right? Like intellectual property protection, zero trust, and more. And we tend to do that across the space of enterprises and government agencies alike. As we jump in, what I want to do is take a look at the current operational technology threat landscape. And the reason why this is important is to survey where we exist, what is going on, how the landscape is starting to evolve, and how we should, as organizations trying to defend our operational technology systems, our industrial control systems, how we should be rapidly adapting to those threats, right? Couple interesting things to kind of as we pulled up here on screen is the fact that Fortinet and their reports have kind of seen that there's been a six-fold kind of increase, right, in the amount of operational technology intrusions that have been occurring for organizations over the past couple of years. Interestingly enough, as well, is that operational technology specific malware has been increasing in the last 3 years than the previous decade before that. One of those aspects being is the fact that generative AI technologies also lower the barrier to entry for malicious actors to create malware that can then be targeting industrial control systems and operational technology systems, right? Like the Mirai botnet, so on and so forth, right? Um, as we continue to kind of look at the space and where malicious actors are focusing, as you can see, 51% of this, right, is centric to electrical power monitoring systems. And a significant chunk of that subset is security misconfigurations. Misconfigurations being that the operational technology system wasn't completely secured or deployed or didn't have hardening configurations that were in place. We're going to get into some of the nuances of that here in just a couple moments, in which we are focusing on the top vulnerabilities and weaknesses that malicious actors leverage as they target organizations. Now, those key drivers being, as we could see here, state actors tend to focus on industrial control systems and operational technology systems across the domain of compromising the IT environments that an operational technology environment might be linked to, but they also are compromising external remote services like IIoT systems, so industrial Internet of Things systems, right? They have direct cellular connectivity, right? Or direct wire Ethernet connectivity going back to an IT network. And they're also compromising systems that are through what you would think of conventional operational technology environments like supply chain, drive-by compromise, removal media, so on and so forth, right? Now, as organizations have been kind of surveyed and what their capabilities are and where they can kind of improve, particularly through the lens of the Purdue model, right, is that 52% approximately, right, note that they have limited capabilities in monitoring their current industrial control systems, their current operational technology environment, while approximately a quarter of respondents in this recent SANS study said that they have extensive monitoring capabilities in place, right? But also 13% or approximately 12 to 13% have no monitoring capabilities in place at all, right? And approximately 10% being unknown. So what that means is that only a quarter of respondents in this study had actually admitted to having extensive, robust monitoring capabilities in place for their industrial control systems and operational control systems. So monitoring of the industrial control systems and operational technology environment is different than IT. Beyond the fact that operational technology systems are meant to be deployed and be robust there for not a year but 3 years, 5 years, 10 years or more, right? How they are kept up to date, how their security is very, very different than IT systems. With that being said, they're also looked at through a very different set of lenses when it comes to security testing principles, security architecture principles, and all that. And so what we have here is the Purdue Enterprise Reference Architecture, right? So the Purdue model allows organizations to look at the security posture of their operational technology environment through many different levels, right? All the way from network connectivity through underlying servers, right? Databases, right? And then getting deeper and deeper and deeper, right, into things like RTUs, sensors and actuators, so on and so forth, right? And some of the challenges, though, with the Purdue model is that systems today are not really as air gapped as they used to be, right? The rise of IoT, rapid cloud adoption, all that has made it so that uh, those systems, be it if they're out of date, they're up to date, or whatever, right, have some type of gateway usually through, either a direct cellular interface or through an underlying IT network, right? And a malicious actor being able to traverse from the IT network, right, into the operational technology environment. Also, as I was noting, the operational technology systems, they don't evolve and change at the same pace as IT systems, right? IT systems, it's very easy to say, hey, we should practice good patch management, right? Hey, we should be using the latest encryption in transit protocols like TLS 1.3, so on and so forth. Well, again, the operational technology systems, they're there for 5, 10 plus years, right? Where they're not going to necessarily support the latest encryption algorithms in transit. So they might be inherently using insecure protocols, right? They might lack a lot of modern security features, right? And so how we protect them is very frequently done through having compensating controls and mechanisms in place, right? Like deploying out various microsegmentation technologies or zero trust technologies that help segment the operational technology environment in a way where it's better protected. Also, one of the things that's important to note is that with this traverse or malicious actors being able to traverse from IT to operational technology environments, a lot of older operational technology environments are managed through IT remote monitoring and management software like TeamViewer or ConnectWise Screen Connect, right? And those in themselves are being leveraged by malicious actors as a gateway to gain a foothold into the operational technology environment. Or in many instances, a malicious actor, as they laterally move into the operational technology environment, they'll deploy the IT team's tools against themselves. So they'll leverage ConnectWise Screen Connect to maintain a persistence, right, within the environment and remain under the radar because things like those IT RMM tools are not easily detectable or as easy to detect and flag, right, with endpoint detection response software, right? So as we continue to kind of think about the Purdue model and we think about, the vulnerabilities and weaknesses throughout the entire stack, what are the most common ones? So Microsoft's recent digital defense report from last year found that the four main vulnerabilities and weaknesses were really not particularly a surprise, something that most folks working with industrial control systems and operational technology systems have kind of seen for many, many years, right? And I think this is going to continue to be the case, but is out-of-date authentication protocols, right? So that is being able to log into a system, not just to authenticate, but also authorization controls, right? Making sure that there's appropriate role-based access controls in place that whomever needs to perform a particular function on that system or device is able to perform that function specific to that duty, right? With the principle of least privilege being practiced there, but also, again, insecure communication. So that might be a industrial IoT device communicating back to an AWS IoT environment, right? Leveraging HTTP, right? Or it's leveraging HTTPS, but it's with, a weak version of like TLS, 1.1 or 1.0, right? And it has weak CBC cipher suites. So, now a malicious actor, if they're a man in the middle, right, they can potentially decrypt that traffic like through like the beast vulnerability and attack, right? That type of stuff. But there's also default configurations and credentials. Those are things that really shouldn't exist, right, in an operational technology environment that as it gets deployed, right, being able to have a good inventory monitor for those systems and manage those systems is important. And then out-of-date legacy software and libraries, which is in conjunction with the out-of-date authentication and insecure communications. So we've kind of established where the threat landscape is, and we know that where it's continuing to go is that malicious actors at this juncture, while they see a ton of value in, breaching an organization, right, getting access to confidential data, exfiltrating that data, then trying to crypto lock it and do something like a double extortion attack, what's also really, really profitable for them, right, is to break into industrial control systems that have a real impact to individuals' livelihoods, right? These are, again, systems that are for, in the manufacturing process, right? They could disrupt critical supply chain capabilities for a nation, right? This could be utility companies, right? Where now power is disrupted to a significant population of a city, or it could be something like a malicious actor tampering with controls of a water treatment facility, right, to put into the local water supply chemicals that could harm the local population, right? And so that allows a malicious actor with the real world impact to demand more in their extortion as they compromise an organization. Again, in conjunction with generative AI technologies and being able to easily code a lot of different types of malicious payloads and packages that are focused on vulnerable firmware that runs on across a lot of these industrial control systems, malicious actors, right, are going to have the tendency of focusing on these types of low-hanging fruit. So, defensive tips. Defensive tips that can help organizations tackle essentially these four main weaknesses here, right? And also help with the common the common theme that we had in the beginning of this webinar, which is a lot of organizations, 75% of which, right, do not have thorough monitoring capabilities of their operational technology environment. So the first defensive tip is this. So I always like to recommend leveraging at a starting point for an organization. Try to leverage well-trusted and vetted open source tools and technologies, right? While there are a ton of great commercial tools and technologies that are out there, at the end of the day, sometimes it can be cost prohibitive. Also, at the same time, organizations need to have a foundational starting point, right? Of processes in place, foundational technology in place, and then they can kind of iterate and improve that with commercial offerings as well. So one of my favorite tools that I always love to use in a lot of our continuous operational technology, security assessments, and pen testing engagements to identify the external footprint, right, of an operational technology environment is Karmika, right, which essentially is leveraging open source intelligence data from tools like Shodan and Census and who is XML, right? Where what we can do is rather than focus on trying to track for just IP addresses, right, that are external public IP addresses of industrial control systems across our organization, what we could also try to do is discover things that we might not have had in our inventory already, right? So we can quickly essentially look at a geographic map of exposed operational technology and industrial control systems that are within our geographic region. So let's say, that's a power plant, right, or a water treatment facility or whatever, right? And hone in on are the things that are exposed in in this geographic locale related to our organization, right? Um, and that allows organizations to help identify what we call true unknowns, right? Again, something if it's not already in an inventory, how are they going to find out about it? They have to do some level of blind discovery, and Camerca, in conjunction with tools like Shodan and Census, right, really help with that blind discovery and knowing what you previously did not know. Another a defensive tip that I tend to recommend for organizations, especially as they're starting to deploy out a more layered approach across their operational technology environment, industrial control systems, is they'll deploy out, EDR agents, might be with CrowdStrike, might be with SentinelOne, whatever. That's great. That's awesome. But malicious actors tend to try to use our tools as an IT department, as a cybersecurity team, right, against ourselves, right? So malicious actors love leveraging living off the land, right? And there has been really this sharp increase in malicious actors, not just deploying what we call EDR killers, right? So essentially tools that are meant to disrupt the EDR agent from functioning on a device. So maybe prevent the EDR agent from communicating back to the security operations center, or sending alerts outbound, or just having the EDR malfunction, right? Or just bypassing the EDR and evading the EDR, right? Malicious actors also are leveraging the IT RMM tools against organizations. So CrowdStrike's 2024 threat hunting report found that there's been a 70% increase, right, in malicious actors leveraging remote monitoring and management tools against organizations. So what organizations should do is they should be looking at configuring and hardening their EDR environments to detect and block against threats that would be associated with IT remote monitoring management tools that the organization knows it's not using. So we're let's say, an Action One shop. We use Action One for patch management on devices and remotely accessing devices. That means all the other things that are in this list right here of RMM tools, right? We can set up our EDR to alert for or potentially block, right, as that software is either installed on a system, right, or detected on a system, right, through a full scan of the file system of the endpoints in our environment. So LOL RMM, right, living off the land remote monitoring management, is a great community driven project that has this curated list of all the RMM tools that are misused by malicious actors. And essentially what that allows folks to do, right, is grab all the associated hashes and indicators of compromise and all that type of stuff, right, that they can then import into their EDR tool. So, hey, we're CrowdStrike's shop. We use CrowdStrike Falcon, for our EDR. That's great. What you can do is you can essentially import that into CrowdStrike, right, with a CSV or JSON. There's some pre-built Sigma rules as well. You can obviously import that into other adjacent tools like your security information event management system, or if you have more of a holistic extended detection and response system, that is certainly a great way to prevent malicious actors from leveraging this living off the land attack vectors. Another great tool that I tend to recommend to organizations who are trying to get a better inventory and understanding of the security posture of their operational technology environment is MITRE Caldera. So MITRE Caldera is a very, very feature-rich open source tool that is meant for simulating adversaries breaking into an organization and compromising a set of systems. And that's through every set of tactics, techniques, and procedures, right? Now, when I say that, what I mean is a malicious actor gaining a foothold onto a workstation, and then the malicious actor doing discovery across the network, and then identifying a vulnerable server, and then compromising that vulnerable server, and then installing a local administrator and continuing to laterally move, right? So MITRE Caldera is a red teaming and a purple teaming tool that has that capability. Again, since it's open source, right, it's not that cost prohibitive for organizations. It also aligns with the MITRE attack framework, which essentially compartmentalizes and atomizes each of those tactics, techniques, and procedures that real adversaries use as they're trying to execute an entire kill chain through an organization and cause a situation of cascading compromise, right? Now, MITRE Caldera in itself is just a fantastic tool to use in a regular IT or corporate IT environment, but on its own doesn't have a lot of operational technology capabilities. So what we can do is we can actually extend it. So the community around MITRE Caldera is a really awesome community. And one of the, there's a ton of full feature plugins out there. One of them that particularly relates to our topic of conversation here today is the MITRE Caldera operational technology plugin, right? Which allows organizations to essentially simulate the adversary actions, right, across operational technology environments, right, that are going to be with operational technology specific communication protocols like DMP3 and BACnet, Modbus, so on and so forth, right? And so what that allows us to do then is we can deploy a Caldera server with a set of starting point agents, so pre-compromised hosts or systems, right, across the Purdue model, right, and test what's our defense, our layered defense in depth approach and security controls across the organization. Similar to SEL, right? So going through, the kill chain of initial access, persistence, discovery, and then digging in deeper, right, into the operational technology systems. So you can kind of see that we start where there's the bridge, right, to the IT environment through levels 5 and 4, right? And then that moving deeper into the operational technology specific environment. And, as we've kind of previously talked about in the beginning of this webinar, right, malicious actors, that's one of the main ways in which they're compromising operational technology environments is through the bridge between IT and OT, right? So we can essentially simulate that of a malicious actor trying to get across that bridge, across that gateway, but also continuing to test deeper and deeper and deeper throughout the Purdue model, right? And really, then we can get deep into the discovery of, cross BACnet, right? And DNS P3 and all that kind of stuff, right? And what's great about MITRE Caldera is that when we are deploying this and we're leveraging this, we can actually select specific types of adversary profiles, right? So an adversary who, let's say, is specifically focused on compromising organizations within the manufacturing space or utility companies or healthcare, right? And we can select that profile, and that profile has an aggregated set of TTPs that adversary or advanced persistent threat would typically use. And then when we go to play that, right, we can see that play out essentially in real time, right? And as that plays out in real time, what that allows us to see is malicious actor compromising a system, right? And every time MITRE Caldera is simulating the compromise of a system and then continuing with lateral movement, it leaves artifacts. And so it's leaving artifacts that are on the file system, right, that we're testing through, right? And so if an artifact exists on the system, then we know that MITRE Caldera was successful. If it doesn't exist on the system, right, then we know that it got, potentially blocked by an EDR or some other tool, right, or security control in the environment, on the system, right? And we can actually go into real time the operations of every TTP of what's being executed, when it's being executed in real time. Great thing also with this is that organizations are not limited to just using the TTPs and the plugins that are out of the box, right? But they can also write their own scripts. They can write their own payloads, right? To, especially if they've seen certain types of threat actors focus on their organization in the past with more unique or novel TTPs, they can essentially replicate that one-to-one, right? So in conclusion, malicious actors will continue to increase their capabilities, focusing on compromising operational technology systems and industrial control systems by leveraging, again, things like generative AI, but also at the same time, because there's a general desensitivity towards breaches that are occurring in the IT space. So malicious actors are going to focus on that because that's where there's the most juice for their squeeze as a monetizable effort. Organizations continue to face challenges with being able to understand the attack surface of their operational technology environment predominantly, and being able to inventory those systems and the security controls across those systems. Malicious actors tending to exploit things like weak authentication protocols, weak encryption algorithms, default system configurations, in conjunction with the fact that organizations don't have a very good inventory of an understanding of their operational technology attack surface. Tools like Camerica and Living Off the Land RMM and MITRE Caldera can help organizations better understand what their attack surface looks like from an operational technology standpoint, and be more proactive in identifying vulnerabilities and weaknesses that malicious actors might be able to exploit in an organization so that they can better protect themselves from cybersecurity threats. So that being said, I really appreciate everyone's time today. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you ever want to chit chat about operational technology and industrial control security. And be sure to stay tuned in to additional webinars that we have on the horizon.